Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Monday, May 18th, 2020 budget adoption meeting at 6 o'clock. At this time, I'll take a roll call of board attendees. Supervisor Lewis.
Here.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers.
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
And Supervisor Lyons is here. This meeting is being held by electronic means pursuant to the continuity of government ordinance adopted by the board on April 6, 2020. Due to the threats posted by the COVID-19 pandemic to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and in accordance with the recommendations, guidelines, and requirements of federal, state, and local authorities. Board members will be participating remotely. Staff will be presenting as normal in the Board of Supervisors meeting room at 150 South Main Street, Lexington. And while the room will be open to the public, no more than 10 persons, including staff, will be allowed into the room at one time as per the board's COVID-19 meeting policy. A public hearing was conducted on May the 11th at the regularly scheduled board meeting. For tonight's meeting, there are three options for citizens to attend remotely. They can join the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors Zoom webinar. The link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. They can join by telephone. They can dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. For citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact, can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel by clicking the link, which is available on the county website. All right, at this time, we'll provide an opportunity for board members to read their conflict of interest statements related to tonight's budget adoption meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Day.
as my wife is an employee of the Rockbridge County School Board, I have a personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the budget under the Conflict of Interest Act. However, I am not disqualified from participating in this adoption of the county budget. My disclosure statement is on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
All right, thank you, Mr. Day.
Mr. Chairman, I have one, well,
Lewis.
which was the same as Mr. Day just read, but I'll read it for the record. As my wife is an employee of the Rockbridge County School Board, I have personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the budget under the Conflict of Interest Act. However, I am not disqualified from participation in the adoption of the county budget. My disclosure statement is on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Ms. And I have one, as my wife is an employee of the Rockbridge Area Health Center, I have a personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the budget under the Conflict of Interest Act. However, I am not disqualified from participation in the adoption of the county budget. My disclosure statement required under Virginia Code 2.2-3115F is on file with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chairman, as an employee of Friends of Rockbridge Swimming, I would like to state that I abstain from all matters, discussions, or voting on the adoption of the 2020-2021 county budget as it relates to the funding for swimming and the Rockbridge Aquatic Center. And my disclosure statement required under Virginia Code 2.2-3115F is on file with the clerk to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. At this time, we'll proceed with the meeting in accordance with the published agenda, beginning with the draft FY 2021-2025 County CIP. Mr. Bolster, please let us know if you have any updates.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Let me begin my comments by stating some administrative items. So first, the latest FY21 line item draft budget is available on board docs and the county's budget website. Secondly, I wanted to communicate that each draft line item budget discussed at the scheduled budget meeting are available also on board docs and the county budget website. In addition, each line item budget, the public can also find it. In addition to the line item budgets, the public can also find the adopted fiscal year 2021 funding priorities, the updated budget schedule, and the provisionally adopted CIP. So as you all know, this is the county's 8th public forum in discussing the proposed fiscal 2021 budget. 7 of those budgets included a review of anticipated revenues and planned expenditures. As you know, the budget cycle is an ongoing process that never really ends. Tonight is a culmination of 10 months of work to develop the annual budget for next fiscal year. Over that time, the board has been presented both external and internal funding requests. We've also had a slight delay in the General Assembly passing the state's biennium budget for fiscal years 21 and 22. The COVID pandemic prompted a regional emergency declaration. We had to make adjustments to the budget schedule, and we had to make adjustment, and there were also adjustments to the state's initially approved biennium budget as well. And then finally, local extension to tax deadlines. So all of these factors were contributing to the board having to make some difficult decisions in achieving a balanced budget for FY21. We hope the board agrees that staff has done the best that we can to enact the board's funding priorities and to adjust the budget schedule as needed, while keeping the board appraised of changes as the draft budget has evolved to tonight's final presentation. While all department heads and supervisors played an important part in developing individual budgets, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the full board, and in particular its finance committee members, Jay Lewis and Dan Lyons, in providing leadership to staff as we progressed towards developing a balanced budget. And lastly, I just want to express my appreciation to Mr. Suter for his assistance in shepherding the budget process to this evening's adoption consideration. So with that, going back to the CIP was provisionally adopted on January 13th of this year. We did provide an update at a March 23rd meeting. It was at a work session. Some of the changes included reducing the number of sheriff vehicles from 8 to 7, moving the construction of modified collection centers 1, 2, and 3 into FY22, and also the consideration of procuring a municipal software was pushed out to FY22 as well. And lastly, the school division CIP that was adopted by the school board on July 2019 was also incorporated. Then we had the COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, Mr. Suter issued a directive to hold off on non-essential purchases of goods and services. This included spending on capital purchases. So as a result, staff added the request from the Parks and Recreation Department to purchase an all-terrain vehicle and hauling trailer into FY21 using fund balance generated from purchases that realized savings after they were purchased. Those two particular items are $12,000 and $7,000 respectively. And again, those are being sourced from reserves within the fund itself. We also incorporated the here recently the 21 to 25 school division CIP, which the school board adopted on April 14th. So for FY21, those updated CIP changes include the following items. The Central Elementary School project, which was the replacement of HVAC, was updated from $1 million to $1,300,000. The VOTEC roof replacement cost estimate was updated from $325,000 to $425,000. And lastly, the school division is requesting to carry over the Central Elementary School field drainage correction at $50,000, and that reflects no change from FY 2020. So just the highlights of the proposed CIP, it's includes $742,203 in planned expenditures in FY 21. That's $411,700 in the construction fund, $330,503 in the capital purchases fund. And the various sources include fund reserves at $325,526. General fund transfers totaling $282,387 and $134,290 in carryover funds. So the proposed CIP for FY21 expenditures is $153,012 above the current year CIP. So with that, I'll turn it back to Chairman Lyons. The next item on the agenda is if the board wants to discuss the FY21-2025 CIP, and after that to request a roll call vote on the updated CIP. And as you know, in the CIP, in the board docs package, there is a CIP resolution for the board to consider.
Okay, is there anyone that wants to discuss the CIP proposal?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize to bring this up now as a member of the Finance Committee and having seen the budget request several times, but I had in my head at some point that all of the collection centers were going to be moved back. You know, we've made lots of tough decisions in our general fund budget, and are not filling positions that I find just ultimately important. And I just wanted to have some discussion on whether these collection centers rise to that level at this time. While there are some carryover monies, there's also monies coming from reserves. I am sensitive to that. These are not in my district, the ones that are being proposed. So, but I thought I needed to bring that up as we try to look at everything we can.
Okay.
So Supervisor Lewis, if I could just go over the CIP worksheets related to the collection centers.
Sure.
So for FY21, there are two, and these are both carryover projects. One is to improve the Murat Collection Center, and that is at $125,000. And then we also have the relocation of Stallings Mountain Collection Center, and that is $236,700. So those are both carryover from prior years into FY21. And then the adjustment that we made back in March was again to push out the new remote sites 1, 2, and 3. Those were at $179,000 a piece. So we pushed those out from 21 into FY22. I hope that adds value to the conversation.
That's probably where I picked up on that. But as I was looking at the detail on this, there say for Stallings Mountain, there is 68,000 of carryover, but then it lists 168,000 coming from reserves. Is that a fund reserve for this project and not our general fund reserves?
Right, that is fund reserves within the construction project fund itself. So both the carryover, since the project is moving forward, we have not expended that full amount in FY 2020's budget. So that whatever is unencumbered will be spent, assuming that this gets adopted in next year's budget. And then we're pulling some reserves that we have in that fund as well that are not linked to that project until now.
I got you.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I have one more. While I know it's not up to us to request public school projects, I did zoom in or team in, I can't remember which one, to the last school board meeting where they had a presentation of the long-awaited division-wide needs study that was involved in starting as a member of the school board and understood that we needed to take that time to sort things out. That has come back, and a couple of the options for the high school and the VOTEC are just the same as they were maybe 4 years ago when our school board presented to the Board of Supervisors a not as detailed a plan, but the estimate must have been pretty good because it's about the same as what was submitted last week. So I as this, is a 4-year out plan, that's another 4 years before something gets in here. But I think our board needs to be aware that we're going to have some hard conversations about what we're going to do for that school in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the county CIP as presented by Bolster.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. We'll do Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
yes,
Mr. Day,
yes,
and the chair votes yes. So the CIP resolution is approved.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, before we move on to the budget, I need to make a motion to separate for swimming, any discussion and vote on the for swimming budget request from the budget, in the entire budget.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second to separate for swimming from discussion separate from the full budget. Is there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Ayers,
Yes,
Mr. Day,
Yes,
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes. So we will separate that out. And when it comes time for a vote, we'll have 2 separate votes.
thank you.
All right. Mr. Bolster, budget update.
Yes, sir. So earlier this morning, staff received written notification from the Rockbridge Regional Fair and Expo Chair Janelle Vest that their board is requesting a 50% reduction on their original request for FY21. So now their ask is for $12,500 in annual support. This is a reduction of $10,000 from the current amount in the draft budget. The Finance Committee recommendation is to make that adjustment to the draft budget accordingly. And so if approved, this action will reduce the contribution to the Fair Board expenditures. So again, it would be $12,500. And we would also adjust the use of unassigned reserves. So both of those actions would be basically a net effect of 10,000 reduction on reserves and a 10,000 reduction on expenditures. And so with that, based on this latest vote, it would make an adjustment. So currently we had the budget advertised at $46,531,114. So I'm changing gears and I'm transitioning to the for swimming vote. So that would take out $13,500 from this consideration, and it would put the general fund budget at $46,517,614. And so I would make that adjustment on the resolution that was included in board docs. Both going back to the horse center and for swimming, that either action has no adjustment or no impact on what was advertised for the calendar year 2020 tax rates. Those were both advertised in late April and early May. Did I say horse center? Yeah, I meant the fair. So at this point, I'll turn it back to Chairman Lyons for the board's discussion, if any, and then consideration of the budget adoption resolution as modified based on both the Fair Board's request and also the vote on the forced swimming.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bolster. Any discussion or questions?
So
All right.
if I could, Mr. Lyons, let me just read, I'm not going to read the whole resolution, but I will say again, with this adjustment, it looks like we're looking at a resolution that would include the general fund at $46,517,614. The construction project fund is $411,700. And the capital projects fund is at $330,503. And then if approved, the tax rates for calendar year 2020 would be for real estate, it would be 74 cents per $100 based on 100% valuation. It'd be the same for mobile homes. Again, $74 or cents per $100 based on 100% valuation. Personal property other than mobile homes would be $4.50 for $100 of assessed valuation. Machinery and tools would be $2.55 per $100 of assessed value. And the Commonwealth's reimbursement rate for personal property tax relief would be 37%. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? All right, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve all budgetary items unrelated to for swimming.
I'll make a motion, we approve that budget.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Day,
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve budgetary contribution to for swimming.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Abstain.
and the chair votes yes. The motion is approved. If there's no further discussion, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Chairman Lyons,
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to take an opportunity to thank Mr. Bolster for all his work through this budget. He's done the heavy lifting at the county, at the staff level, and his staff have been very supportive through this whole process, which has been incredibly difficult, as you all know. And he's kept the wheels turning, and I'm deeply appreciative for Mr. Bolster's assistance.
And on behalf of all the supervisors, I concur. I don't know, how do we get by without him and his staff? So thank you, Mr. Bolster.
And I've got one more recognition. Stefan Jandvik, and Stefan, I butcher your name every time, but Stefan is obviously not on camera, but through this whole process, he has done an incredible job of being able to make these meetings possible remotely. And he's sitting here at each of the meetings, not just these meetings, but everybody else's meetings. So really want to thank him for all his service.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully we'll get back to face-to-face meetings very soon. You have anything else, Mr. Suter?
Well, the only other person left in the room here is Ms. Huffman, and she keeps us straight legally and makes sure that the board gets the motions right. And I really appreciate her counsel.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Ms. Huffman. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes,
Mr. Day? Mr. Day?
Bob?
Yes,
Chair votes
yes.
thank you all for your attendance, and we will see you uh, Tuesday at 5:30. Have a good
All
evening.
right. Take care.